Hi, my name is WJ Herbert, and my poetry collection, Dear Specimen, was a co-winner of the Poetry Book Award this year. The penultimate poem in the collection is spoken by the daughter of a woman who has been facing her own mortality in this series of poems. And she has looked to the natural world, to specimens, to fossils, and to the animals that she's seen around her, to try to understand the meaning of what it means to be alive and how it might feel to be extinct. And in this, she starts to think about the vastness of geological time, the many species that have come and gone in the mass extinctions. And she begins to write about the climate crisis and how it concerns her, what will happen to the world, and most especially to her daughter and grandson. These are a few lines from that penultimate poem. Her daughter's name is Sarah. At the seafloor exploration exhibit, Sarah asks, ghost fish, tail flapping like a translucent scrap of linen in the wind, flag of surrender with a spine inside, eyes riding on slow light through the deep ocean's darkness. Do you know what my mother was looking for? Because it's about a woman facing her own mortality, part of the impetus was a transient health scare that I had that quickly dissipated. But more important was Trump's election, when he pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accords, when he began dismantling the hard-won victories environmentalists had won over the years. And we could see that he was going to favor the fossil fuel industries, and the climate crisis was going to be exacerbated. So I looked to specimens in the North Carolina Museum of Sciences. I also went to La Brea tar pits and looked at fossils there. One of the most galvanizing moments was when I was at the foot of the Athabasca Glacier on the Icefields Highway in Canada. And you could see the rapid glacial retreat there. And I really felt compelled to try to put together a manuscript for the very first time. I wrote the specimen poems first, just because I was captivated by the way they looked in this museum, how arrested in death and how alive they seemed. So I had this group of specimen poems. I took a class at the 92nd Street Y in New York, a year-long class and at that point, I had the specimen poems and probably 70 pages of other things I'd written over the many years. And I learned to kind of look at them in terms of a manuscript. And ultimately, of course, I had to throw out 2/3 of what I had. I was given a scholarship to a workshop, the Vermont College of Fine Arts. And there, a fellow student looked at just the fossil poems and the specimen poems and said, you need to give your reader a way in. And I didn't know what that was, but I really felt that he was right. And it was at that point that I began drafting the Sarah poems, which are the dialogue poems between the mother and daughter that really make you feel that the impending death of this one human being is going to matter to someone. The process of creating any work of art is usually pulled from the deep subconscious. And if I actually tried to write with an agenda, I would probably fail. So I was just personally deeply concerned about this. And I just wanted to talk to someone about it. And in a way that used a metaphor and imagery and a rich language in a way that you don't get in a casual conversation. Yes, it's easy to be in despair about such a vast and all-encompassing problem that will undoubtedly lead to the extinction of millions of species before we get it under control. But I take heart by the work of activists who have put their heart and soul in moving this slow machinery of government. And I have joined in them when I can. I was really thrilled to co-win this award with Jefferson Nowicki, who is a friend and wonderful poet, and to join the group of people over the years who have won, who I deeply respect. to be able to become a meaningful part of the Maine writing community of all genres, and to also thank the Maine Writers and Publishers Association for all they do. I took a workshop with Arissa White, who about putting together a chapbook, which I found valuable to putting together a manuscript as a whole. And so I can't thank this organization enough for the wonderful things they do. The most important writing advice I didn't get: never idolize anyone. I did idolize people. And when you do that, you tend to over edit your impulses. And so now I meditate every morning. I listen to temple bells. And then I read some bit of poetry. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's like a musician playing scales to kind of warm up with language. And then I write or edit. And I respect my own impulses.